Hi everybody, my name is Asha Dornfest and I am the publisher of the parenting website Parent Hacks, and I'm also the co-author of the book Minimalist Parenting, Enjoy Modern Family Life More by Doing Less. For the last almost 7 years I've been collecting parents' just tried and true tips for making life easier, many of which involve duct tape and and crossing your fingers. And minimalist parenting is really about how to dial down that overwhelm that many of us are feeling as modern parents these days. My favorite disruptive hero is my husband, Rail. Sometimes we learn from people in the very mundane and simple ways that they do things differently than we do. I know that for me growing up, I've always been sort of an academic and a thinker, and my way of problem solving usually involves analyzing it, thinking about it, and then asking lots of people for advice. And actually, it's the action part that's hard for me. When real life hit, and it required much more, thinking on my feet, I struggled. I really did. And my husband Rail is a person who can think a little bit about something and then act very quickly. And then actually he will lead with action and then adjust. He's the master of course correction. And this has changed my life and the way that I approach my life. You probably know somebody like this in your life. I mean, certainly doesn't have to be my husband. It could be somebody in your life who you know doesn't seem to be afraid to just sort of dip their toe in or jump in with both feet and try something and not worry too much about messing up or failing and then, adjusting and moving on and learning from that. That just having that modeled for me in the almost 20 years we've been married, it's been a long learning process for me, but it's really changed the way I parent. It's changed the way I act in my professional life, and it's changed everything for me. My favorite disruptive change involves two physical events. It's important that they're physical events and not sort of mental events because I'm very comfortable living in my mental space. And so the first event, believe it or not, was childbirth with my first child. Without getting into the details, which I'm sure nobody really wants to hear, it was the first experience I had ever had that was so intensely physical that conscious thinking really had nothing to do with it. And it was the first time I had ever experienced something so important and massive without trying to think it through first or control it with my mind. That was really powerful for me. The second event was also a physical process, and it was doing an exercise boot camp on the sort of strong recommendation from a friend of mine. She sort of twisted my arm because I was really afraid to do it. Signed up for a really intense exercise class, way more intense than anything I'd ever done in my life, except for childbirth. And I was sure I couldn't do it. I didn't want to do it. I was scared to do it. And yet she sort of strong-armed me into it. And she's a good enough friend that I was fine with that. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done. Hard and, sort of unpleasant. And yet 6 months later, I was still doing it and feeling so strong and capable. And it really taught me not only about my physical capabilities, but it taught me about how much our mind can deceive us about what our own capabilities are. We really do throw a lot of roadblocks in our way. And usually they're self-protective, but this wasn't helping me at all. And it was really wonderful to just blast through those roadblocks. It taught me something about myself and taught me something about how we can sometimes we can be our own worst roadblock. The big aha for me is that I had to step in. I hate to say step out of my comfort zone because that phrase is so overused. But frankly, I had to get pushed. But I do find that the times that I have really been pushed to places where I didn't think I initially wanted to go, those are the places where something inside me was enlarged. Something about my capabilities changed. And I became more confident. So I think that a regular detour to places that you don't usually go, whether that's a physical challenge or a mental challenge, or even learning a new skill, going into a social situation that you're initially hesitant to do, you got to do those things. So the disruptive change I'm struggling with right now, believe it or not, after all my going on and on about boot camp and childbirth, is exercise, regular exercise, and creating that habit for myself. I'm not really great with self-care. It's very easy for me to prioritize other people and other things before myself. And I think it's just important for me to share that with you, because it would be really easy to sort of sound like, oh, she took this great exercise class and now she exercises all the time. Well, you know what? I still struggle with it. And I think we have to recognize that we're human about when it comes to habit change, that it is not necessarily an immediate thing. Right now, I really am trying to, find that habit again. And I have to start over in some ways, because it's once again intimidating to me, it's once again scary, and it's time for me to take that step again.